Good morning. The word for you today. Today is Thursday, September 28th. Our devotion today is titled Praying God's Promises, number 1. So our scripture passage today comes out of John chapter 15, and I'll be reading through verses 7 through 11. And this says, "If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be full." So, what's going on? Well, first things first, let's give a little bit of context for this verse. This is in the book of John. The book of John, written by the disciple John in Christian tradition. So this is the non-synoptic gospel. What that means is that this has some major distinctions that separate it from the other 3 gospel accounts that we have in the Christian Bible. Okay, so that's point number 1. This is a very different basis and a very different emphasis than what maybe Matthew or Mark or Luke might be writing about. 2, the book of John is all about the spiritual aspects of Jesus. Now here's what I mean. John starts out by saying that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. It has the verse about how the Word became flesh, and we call that Jesus. It has this verse about how God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. It has all of these very important verses that we hold true. The book of John is a spiritual essay almost on the divinity of Jesus, and is affirming Jesus as part of the Godhead, is affirming Jesus as part of the divine. Okay? So, this one passage, it comes to us in what we call the true vine statement. This statement comes all the way through chapter 15, verses 1 through 11, verses 1 through 6, 1 through 11. It's kind of all intermingled in there. And so basically, it's Jesus saying, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser, or the pruner, or the caretaker. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me." This is a complete and total melding of these 2 ideas. The idea of a vine, this source of life, of fertility, of growth, of food, of nourishment. Vines, which are things that can be used to create rope or nets. Vines that can be used to decorate. Vines that can be used to grow food and crop. Vines that produce grapes that are made into wine or other drink. Vines that produce fruits that are pleasing and good to eat. Vines are a symbol of life and of fecundity and of abundance. And so the beauty and the joy of this passage is that Jesus is saying that just like a vine is a great symbol of abundance and growth and maturation and all these fun concepts and all these wonderful concepts, the divine vine, the divine God, God the Father, is the vine that nourishes and enhances all things. And so when Jesus calls himself the vine, what he is saying is that through Jesus, as we rely on Jesus, as we gain our nourishment through Jesus, we are being fed, we are growing, we are able to make use of the fruit that is good to eat. So, what's the point of this? Well, Jesus explains this to us in the next set of verses. Starting in verse 12, it says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." Verse 13 says, "Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down their life for their friends." And verse 14 ends this, With you are my friends if you do what I command you. What Jesus is saying is that this vine metaphor has extended into obeying. This vine metaphor, this life metaphor, has extended into abiding and obeying the Lord, obeying what Jesus calls us to do. And what is that? Well, I would argue that it's radical love and acceptance. It's radical peace and welfare for others. It's bringing justice to the world. It's showing that there is a love and a God who cares for those that are less fortunate and those that are abused or victimized. For me, abiding in the vine is me making sure to stop and take a moment to actually look at what I'm doing, to see what I'm putting out into the world, what I'm supporting, and what those policies or what those organizations are doing to the world around me. When I look at people that I'm voting in or people that I am supporting, when I look at the pastors that I listen to, when I look at the authors I'm reading, what do their messages do to the people that hear them? For me, abiding in Jesus is making sure that every part of my life I am constantly looking over and making sure that it is good and it is fruitful, that it promotes joy and growth and provision. So, praying God's promises. What do we do with that? How does this relate? I think it's pretty simple. Verse 7 said, "If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you." That's not God saying, whatever you want, I'm going to give it to you. That's God saying that when we as a collective, or at least I think that it's God saying, when we are working as a collective to actively pursue the God-given commandment of being fruitful, of caretaking the world, of showing peace and love, when we sow goodness and faithfulness and peace into the world, eventually it will work out. Eventually it will become reaped. Eventually, God will grow that into an Eden-like existence on earth. Maybe not now, but in the coming days. Have a nice day.